to the Spa Interactive Cooking Theatre on a Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock at the Spa Cape Town Ramadan and Lifestyle Expo. Now, Edward Kieswetter will spend another 2 years as the South African Revenue Services Commissioner, and this as President Cyril Ramaphosa extended his tenure, noting that this decision will enable an orderly leadership transition at the head of the Tax Revenue Service. Now, Kieswetter was appointed in May 2019 and at the time dedicated, we said that he would only be available for 5 years of national service, after which he will retire. Can the President's extension in Kieswetter's tenure be seen as a vote of confidence? For now joined by Head of Strategic Engagement and Compliance at Tax Consulting SA, and that's Jashwin Baijoo. Hello and welcome to Radio 786.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks so much for joining us. How should we interpret this extension of Edward Kieswetter's tenure at SARS? Is it a vote of confidence, or are we looking at perhaps a leadership issue here, in that there isn't really someone qualified or able to take over at the South African Revenue Service?
So to not look at it politically and more to look at it practically, Kieswetter has over his tenure implemented a number of positive enhancements and changes within SARS, and one of those key items is the strategic objectives from 2023. Now, two of those key objectives is obviously making non-compliance hard and costly, and making voluntary compliance easy and sometimes seamless. So it really is a case of the presidency is trying to ensure that the transition between commissioners is as seamless as possible. And with Kieswetter initially having his term ending in April, but it needs to be a case of a smooth transition where a proper and correct handover is done, as well as Kieswetter providing additional guidance and strong counsel to the next commissioner when that takes place.
You mentioned some of the measures that he had put in place before during his time at the head of SARS, and it points to basically focusing and almost streamlining the way SARS functions. Do you believe that he has made enough positive strides in terms of his role at SARS?
Look, so there's never such a thing as enough positive strides, and Kieswetter's tenure has seen positive and negative. And I've had enough webinars and chaired enough panels where the attendees, being accountants, tax practitioners, attorneys, do have some confidence, but not full confidence. And that's not to speak just to Kieswetter, but SARS as an organization. So Kieswetter's enhancements, such as the implementation of the AIT, the streamlining of that process, certain additional more stringent measures on international taxation, on verification processes, things like that, have been a step in the right direction. Also forming of the high wealth individual unit, a step in the right direction, but they're not quite there yet.
Indeed, and that I suppose will be something that he will be working on as his 2 years, or he has his 2 year extension. But coming now to his successor, what would be the next task for this person who takes over the reins, as it were, at SARS?
So, I've had a chat with a couple of the more senior guys at SARS, and I'm probably going to see Commissioner Kieswetter tomorrow evening at an event here in Joburg. But from those discussions, and even with the prior acting commissioner Mark Kingan, the discussions really are around SARS needs to sort out the bugs in terms of their modernization and their systems and the e-filing profile. I mean, we all know e-filing profile, endless hassles. So that's a kind of technological advancement that's needed, or correct implementation. But together with that is obviously a more keen focus on non-compliance more broadly, rather than targeting a handful of your more high-end individuals or companies that have massive tax debts. It's a more broad focus on non-compliance across the South African tax base, and that includes South African residents in SA and out of SA.
Jashwin Baijoo, thank you so much for your time on Radio 786 this afternoon. Is the Head of Strategic Engagement and Compliance at Tax Consulting SA. Talking about the tenure of Edward Kieswetter, who now extends his tenure at the helm of the South African Revenue Service for another 2 years.